Public Works and Planning Committee to order. I'm gonna ask Brad Turner to lead us in prayer first.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity that's been afforded each one of us to represent the citizens of Rutherford County. I ask that you be with us this evening, Lord, as we talk about some of the issues for Public Works and Planning. Be with those who are watching at home, Lord. Be with the families that are represented here this evening. I ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we'll, take the Highway Department first. Mike's got his, okay, need approve the minutes first.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mike, you wanna go ahead with that?
Yeah, we've got three items tonight. The first one being a budget amendment. We had a judgment of $187,096 to, it's a workman's comp claim. We're gonna take that money out of building contents, liability insurance, and trust stone. That's our entire budget for trust stone. We didn't use any of that this year, and if we ever use that, pay this judgment.
Motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is the drainage easements. The first one is off of East Compton Road. The second one is one easement off Factory Road, and the last one is two easements in Magnolia Trace subdivision, which is a subdivision off of Manchester Highway.
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
Is there any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The third and final item is our budget. This will be my final budget, and I'd like to thank Mary. She has helped me considerably on these budgets over the years, and I'm gonna go over this with you, and if there's any questions I can answer, I know she can. So, last year's budget was $9,907,445. This year, we are requesting $378,799. That's a 5.3% decrease over last year's budget. Any questions you have, we'll try to answer them. The road board has approved this budget, and I'm bringing it to you for your approval and pass it on to finance.
Did you have a capital project that you completed, Mike? Was there something significant? Because it looks like that's where your biggest decrease is. The capital outlay, it dropped from 1.3 to 724,000.
Yeah, that was, the biggest drop was the state aid project. Last year we paid, we had a considerable amount of money in our state aid, which comes from Nashville. And we had to get some money out of fund balance to pay that. And this year we're going back to the $279,860, which is our original state aid that we get each year.
Okay. And then the other thing, there's a pretty big salary increase of 55,000. Can you break that out for us? It looks like there is a sheet on the next page, but
We are, there's a new pay plan that's being considered, and we are following that pay plan as best we can.
What we're doing on that one is, based on the pay plan, because I've worked with Sonia in HR, and she laid out what she's proposed, and,
She did a pretty extensive salary study.
right, yes, ma'am.
Of comparable
And-
counties.
And we've been on the county's pay plan since it went into effect in '95. And so we've kind of piggybacked with her.
Okay.
And so she done extensive, search on, we got her the number of hours and the years and stuff of our gentlemen and how, which one they worked in, you know, equipment or heavy equipment. And she put it all together and brought it back out. And, some of the guys got significant increases just because they've been in this, you know, maybe heavy equipment for 20 years, because we've got several that's 20-plus years. And so, across the board, the least amount that any one employee will get would be $540, and we went with the cap that she said she was suggestion of $5,000. So, you're looking at from a 1.3% increase on someone's salary for up to a possible 9% increase on someone's salary.
I don't think we had but one individual went to 5,000.
Right, there was not many of those, and we had several that are 2 and 3s, and that's because they just, you know, they've been in that one.
That longevity.
Right, yes, ma'am. And you'll notice out to the side of that report, we still have 64 employees. We started several years ago with 76, then we dropped it to 71, and we've taken it down to, we finally are at 64 positions. And
Okay.
we're paying actually right now 58 employees.
Okay. And then the big jump on the health insurance, that's out of your control, that's just a pass-through of
Right,
what the
yes,
plan
ma'am.
costs, yeah.
And you'll notice, I broke out the retirees insurance, which is a separate line item on the 66,299. I'm taking into account that, Mike is going to retire, and there's several other gentlemen that probably will retire, and so I went ahead and plugged them in.
In anticipation.
In anticipation, because I know they're retiring.
Right.
And so that's why there's such a jump, and then there is a increase in the county's portion on the health insurance.
And I do want the county to pay their part too.
Yeah.
How much of the road signs budget is going to just replace the old signs to make them?
We had a substantial amount in there when we were replacing all those signs. We have that done, and we're dropping that budget line item back to where it'll just be enough for maintenance of existing signs.
How much do we spend replacing all those signs?
Oh, you talking about total? Oh,
Well,
about, probably 300,000.
And we didn't have to do that after all, did we? They repealed that rule.
Well, not right now anyway. Eventually, I think you'll have to do it, but if you've seen any of the new signs, it's so much better than what we had. You can see them from a half a mile away. And the old signs you couldn't see if you were about ready to turn in.
And we've got several thank you calls on those. Myself and my other secretary answering the phone. We've got thank yous on those signs, so.
But from a public safety standpoint, driver of a fire engine, I know it's helped me out considerably. So, I thank the highway department for doing it. Myself. I'm sure I speak for other ones also.
We saved considerably over what the estimate was from the state. They figured it'd be somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 to do that, and we've done it for about 30. We print our own signs in-house, and that's saved considerably.
So all of them have been replaced?
Yeah,
Okay.
all the stop signs and name signs.
Is this budget revenue neutral? Does it pay for itself, or are we spending out of our fund balance?
There will have to be, if we spend that total amount, the 9,378,000, it will have to have some out of fund balance. But in past years, we've been conservative and not spent that whole budget, and we at least broke even each year. Maybe we were close last year.
You still ended up too good last year, it was close though.
How's it looking for your fiscal end this year?
Not good. Revenues have not come in because of gasoline tax.
Mhm.
Gasoline prices are up, people are not buying as much gasoline as before.
Mhm.
I think we'll still be close, but it's not as good as previous years.
Mineral severance is also down. We're
Yeah.
probably only running about maybe 65% of that actually received in for this fiscal year.
No
And what was that?
construction.
Oh,
The mineral
severance.
got it,
severance
okay,
tax.
okay.
We get a percentage of the 15-cent tax on each
Mhm.
ton of crushed stone.
It's-
And we lose a lot of that with these portable crushers that people set up.
Mhm.
If they haul that stone off-site, we're losing that mineral severance tax.
Mhm.
So that's one reason that we're active in changing the enforcement of that, trying to catch people that are processing stone and hauling it to another site.
If we were to approve this and every dollar were spent, how much of the fund balance would be used?
I would guess probably 800,000 to 900,000.
And how much is in there?
4-point-something million.
4.1 for the highway department and 1.3 for the public works, so.
Total of 5.4 million. Of course, there'll be a new road superintendent coming in, and, you know, I have no way of telling what he might want to do or spend, so. I know in the past, we have been conservative in saving that money.
If there's no more questions, I'll make a motion that we approve the budget as presented.
Second.
Anybody got any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Pass.
No, I want to vote no, Mr. Chairman.
When I work for the highway department, I'm gonna pass on this budget.
That's all I've got.
Before Mike leaves, Mr. Chairman, let me bring up something that's not on the agenda, but recall the Public Works has asked us to ask the state of Tennessee, TDOT, if a signal could be approved at Central Valley Road in 231. And I sent that letter in and they've said, yes, it is, they've determined that in their judgment, we can put that up. Of course, that would be our full cost. The point Mr. Williams may can help us here. I don't know who I talked to, but they have suggested that if this light goes up there, we need to consider making an improvement to Central Valley Road in that as you go approaching the intersection at 231, they would suggest that a turn lane, a right turn lane be put there to make the light really efficient, work like it should. So have y'all had any discussion about that ever before, Mr. Williams, or is that something that you could give us any guidance on?
If we can get the right of way, we'll be able to do that, no problem.
Okay.
That right of way is a problem on all widening project.
So we'd have to work with the owners to decide how much right of way more that we might need.
Right.
Okay.
And if that, you know, if we need to do that, I'll probably get, our engineer, Eric, or someone to do that.
So, okay, before this is gonna cost a light and this piece here may not, we may get that done with our own services, but could you get Eric to tell us what we need to do so we can determine if there's gonna be a right-of-way additional cost. So I can maybe take this through the budget process between now and July the 1st.
We can fund all of it, but the right-of-way.
But the right-of-way piece
Yeah.
itself. So if we could get him to tell us if we're gonna need, the road may have enough space there for it, I just don't know.
There should be some right-of-way there, because when the state widened 231, they've got additional right-of-way. Now, how much they have, I don't know,
Okay.
but he can find that out.
If you will get him to help us determine if we're gonna need to buy any more right-of-way or not, so we can help put the whole budget together on that if we do that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for a great job for.
Yes,
how many
sir.
years has it been that way?
44 and a half.
Oh, my gosh. That's admirable.
Well,
Altogether, 20 years as superintendent.
20 years as superintendent, well, good job, and we appreciate all the leadership you provided.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to solid waste and landfill.
Good evening.
Hello.
Mr. Black always likes good news.
Whoop it on us. We
My
need
son's
some.
grades from MTSU came in. A's and B's.
Oh, well, that's great. That is great.
The other good news is, we're looking at the revenues that we've been generating. The recycle revenues is gonna be probably above the budgeted number for revenue and the landfill as well. And with that said, the landfill, you can see that's the top of your report. It's doing pretty well. We're still taking in quite a bit of C&D debris from storm damage and that type stuff. We have modernized. We actually do take credit cards and debit cards now. We just started that recently. So that revenue is not actually in here, so the revenue is actually higher than that. So we didn't know how to figure that quite yet. So it's new to us. And on the convenience center side, we're still rather busy. Things are going pretty well there. On that second page of the convenience center report, if you look down at that bottom chunk, that's the drivers that haul out of the convenience centers. If you look at that right-hand column, you can see some of those numbers are pretty low. So we've had a lot of drivers out for the last several months. But we've still been able to do okay with it. We spent most of our overtime line item covering the difference, but we're doing okay there. Any questions on that part?
There's no question. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we do have 2 budget amendments. You ready for those? Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
You remember a couple of months ago, we did a budget amendment, moved several $1,000s around, part of which was diesel fuel, and we didn't move enough. We're estimating we're gonna need another $70,000 to complete this year with diesel fuel. That money is coming from within the budget. We're taking it out of the site development line item. And then the other budget amendment is for tires. We think we're gonna be about $6,000 short there. And that also is coming from within the budget. We're gonna take that out of solid waste equipment.
Make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Are we doing both of them?
this is for both of them, then the motion is
Okay.
on roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Black?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
That's all I have, unless you have some questions.
What about those,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, Matt.
state contracts?
Matt, do you have another copy of the $6,000
That one, yeah.
budget amendment?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, thank you.
We do get grant money. I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. The litter grant, This litter grant is the one that funds the 2 litter vans that carry the inmates and pick up all the county roads weekly. It also helps fund the educational piece and then all the maintenance to go along with it. That doesn't fund it 100%. But this litter grant is what we use to help support that budget. And the mayor was actually on the way up here. There's a second litter grant that helps fund the DUI pickup.
And
There's
we have
two
that.
separate grants that we're gonna need your approval to,
One's county roads, one is state
one is
roads.
state roads, one county roads and one state roads.
Do we
The
have,
DUI is state only. The county roads can pick up state roads. But
do,
the
do
DUI
we have
cannot.
both of those tonight, or is this for just one of them?
How you got that for?
State
This is
came
the
in
state
late.
one, state of Tennessee one, and this is the county one.
I only have one sheet, that's one.
Oh, you do?
Is there an amount on these? Do we know how much we're getting? 'Cause I didn't see an amount listed.
The county road pickup is $110,500, which is an increase from last year.
Yes, that's right.
The DUI, I'm not sure what that one is. I haven't seen the number on it. I think last year was 37,000.
Mayor made that.
It's $33,785. For the state.
Close. You close.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
All right, we'll need a motion passed and tell them both together then.
So moved.
Second.
You can.
All in favor?
Aye.
What else you got, Mac?
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, planning.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the meeting today, we placed a copy of the subdivision lot inventory on your, in front of you, on your table in front of you there. On the, this will be the second page, in front of the second page, you'll see that this past month we didn't have any newly recorded lots. However, our total available lots still continues to go down. It's kind of a slow process, but it is going down. You can see this time last year, we had 1,505 available recorded lots. We're now down to 1,312. So again, it's trending down. It's a slow trend.
I'm
but-
just curious, before the housing in 2008, what was a typical number?
Off the top of my head,
I mean, just a guess.
I don't think it was, I'm not sure if it was quite that high. It may have been, maybe, I can't really give you a number honestly,
Okay.
without it just be a complete guess.
I'm just trying to see if this is high or normal.
Yeah, well, I know when I've spoken with some of my counterparts in city governments, I know that their lot inventory may not be quite as high as this, but it is pretty significant, like maybe around 1,000, 11, 1,200, something like that. And I know when that lot inventory gets to a certain point, you know, I know a lot of economists don't like to see that much inventory
Mhm.
because it's not being moved.
Mhm.
And generally, if you see a lower inventory, then chances are there's more activity going on, the numbers staying more lower in flux like that. But when it gets this high, this becomes an issue. But it is starting to trend down some. But if you want to give me a call, I can look into that and kind of let you know. We really just started keeping track of that number within the last year or two.
Mhm.
So I can go back a little bit and take a look. If there's no other questions regarding that report, I'll just move on to the zoning report. We'll have two public hearings at the meeting next week. The first is for a piece of property along West Jefferson Pike, 4540. This is a piece of property that the applicant's proposing to open as a daycare for up to 30 children, which will be housed in the existing building on the property. Of course, this will be contingent upon state approval for what they'll allow her to have. She would have a total of 8 employees split between a morning and an afternoon shift. Her hours of operation would be from 6:15 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. Existing building is about 1,100 square feet on the property. This property has been zoned for a variety of uses over the years. It was originally approved back in '98. rezone the retail and wholesale trade for use as a merchandise sales and antique store. In 2006, the Board of Zoning Appeals approved a plan for a floral business, and in 2008, again, the BZA approved a site for a wellness center, which offered nutritional, natural health services and education. None of those uses have really panned out, so the applicant has identified this as a possibility for a daycare. Now, there's only a small gravel parking lot on the property, so any rezoning and change of use like that would require a site plan, parking up to our standards, paid parking, and those kind of things. So, and she's aware of that, but that's just part of the process, just to let you know about that. There wasn't really a whole lot of discussion on this item. It was unanimously recommended, approved by the Planning Commission.
Pretty much so, commercial zone right there.
It is, really on the south side of the.
840.
Right, it's literally adjacent to 840, and right across the street, just to the east, just a tad, right, there's a trucking firm. The site plan's been approved for that. There's still not a whole lot of activity going on the property. There's some issues with improvements to the road. I think they're trying to work through with TDOT.
Right.
And of course, the front part of the property is actually zoned for a more commercial type businesses, but we haven't seen any other site plans since that point. But yes, that area, that right there, through there is zoned for non-residential use. The other application that we had is for a piece of property on Las Casas Pike, 3646. The applicant is actually representing the owners of the property, the Mullins, and essentially the property is proposed to be utilized by the Valley Growers, which operate a nursery just a little further up the road on Las Casas Pike at 4710. They'd like to relocate, build, and operate their garden center at this location. It is a family-owned company. They operate wholesale greenhouse facilities in Tennessee. There's a website there if you'd like some more information about their operations. They would build a new 1,440 square foot building. The property currently is vacant. Their concept plan, which is included on in your agenda materials, also shows a couple greenhouses and also a covered wood frame display area. The property, again, is currently vacant. There is an existing barn on the property which would remain. There was quite a bit of discussion on this particular item at the Planning Commission meeting. Ultimately, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this particular application. We have received a number of phone calls prior to the meeting, and even since then. I was looking at the file a little earlier, and we've received another probably 10 or 12 phone calls with people concerned about this application. But this was one of those applications where even staff, we didn't necessarily make a recommendation on this particular item just because we can see both sides of this comprehensive plan. Really it recommends commercial type uses along arterial roads like this, but at the same time we do recognize that this is a predominantly residential area. The closest commercial use, really, it's right down, if you look on the map on the property, there's a property down from this one. It's still zoned R15, but it's got a conditional use permit on it for a chiropractic office. That's really the closest non-residential use. The closest commercial zone property is really down the road a ways. So with that, again, there was quite a bit of discussion on this, about 3 or 4 motions actually by the Planning Commission before it was ultimately recommended to be denied. But as you see, it was not a unanimous vote. It was a 5-4 vote with 1 abstention. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on either of these requests.
I'd like to speak about it. I represent right across the road from it. I've had no calls, and I've had a lot of them in Mr. P and my side also. Everybody's been opposed to it. These is good folks, just like you said. They got a good business right now in Las Casas. Matter of fact, they're my constituents, and as it is right now, I think it was a community meeting the other night. They had one. Right in here, it is like you said, residential, and it is placed there. If it was placed there, I think it would be a safety issue as far as coming in and out on the road right there. It's heavily traveled. I guess politely asked commissioners to vote against this when it comes before the commission. I know there's also another petition out there. I don't think the majority of them, they probably more than likely don't live in this adjacent area. And I'm as pro-business as anybody up there, and these folks are still gonna have a business. We're not knocking them out or nothing. I just don't think this is the right location, in my opinion. So, if anybody I travel this road all the time. I know the area really well.
The owner of the nursery, spoke with me too. He used to be the SRO at the Las Casas school back then, so that's why he called. He remembered that. I was kind of frequent customer to buy the flowers and everything when they come.
So you're familiar with it?
Yes.
Well, and from the planning commission standpoint, it was a very tough vote. I mean, it took us 3 motions to get a majority on anything. Was it 4? So it was a tough call, and you'll see when they do the presentation, it's one of those situations where you've got people on both sides of an issue who have strong ties to the community. Everybody's well-intended. You're going to be able to see both sides of it, and you're just going to have to look at it and vote your conscience. And it's just one of those deals where half the people are going to be happy and half of them aren't, whichever way you vote. So I haven't had a chance to actually drive down the road yet, but I've told everybody that I've spoken with I am going to drive out there before the meeting so I can just see it with my own 2 eyes. To see, I think it's it's going to be that close of a call. It's going to be that important a decision that I think if you have a chance, you should probably try to do that before the meeting. So.
Well, I think another concern is that with it being zoned commercial, I mean, the business is well kept, everything's good. Mm-hmm. But if it gets rezoned commercial, who's to say what'll come in there? And that's another concern of these folks. I mean, it's not a conditional permit like the chiropractic office. When he leaves or goes out of business, it goes back to residential. This here, good Lord gives us a day, you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, and that's what these folks is concerned about.
Well, and that's a great point moving forward. We've been so accustomed to using conditional use permits as a way of rezoning, commercial property, that under the new format, we're going to be moving away from that. So every time we vote to rezone something, we need to recognize that there are multiple commercial uses within that rezoning. It won't be just for the applicant that's in front of us. So that's a really important distinction. We just need to think about, for every public hearing going forward, that's going to be just a mind shift change that that we've not done before. We've always had that safety net that it would, if they move out, it'll revert back to residential, and that won't be the case anymore.
How long ago was that conditional use permit extended for the chiropractor? I mean, are there more homes now around that area?
That was just last year, wasn't it?
I think it's been a couple of years, but
It's been since we've been in office.
Oh, really?
It's 2007 is when it was approved for a chiropractic office. Yeah.
So that was 5.
Well, we heard it a year or so ago, didn't we? We heard something.
No, it was longer than that.
Was it a
I didn't
different one?
remember it, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
let
what
me,
I was
trying
asking.
to-
Okay, it must have been a different.
There was a new drugstore that was within the last couple of years that the Las Casas drug moved a little closer
That's
into
where we heard it.
town down the road.
Matter of fact, that's where the nursery's located, right next
Yes,
to the
yeah, right next
drugstore.
to where
that
and
is,
down
yeah,
there.
And they're renting that property, right?
They're
Is that-
leasing it.
Right, he's
Right,
leasing that
right.
property now. That's why I was curious, how long ago was that permit extended? And that's been 5 years. I didn't know if there was even more houses that are now in that residential area that would be affected than, because I think that was one of the arguments was, well, the chiropractor was given a, conditional use permit, and
Right.
but it sounds like 5 years ago is a pretty long time. It's a
Right,
little bit
and-
different perspective
yeah.
now than if it was 12 months ago.
And with the chiropractic office, the gentleman who applied for that actually lives on the property.
On the property,
next-
right.
Right next door.
Right.
Not on the property, but right next door to it. And as time has gone on, we've tried to get away from
Sure.
conditional use permit without a rezoning. I mean, from my standpoint, from planning standpoint at least, I've said this at the planning commission before, Ms. Allen can certainly attest to that, but in my mind at least, it doesn't make much sense. If you're gonna have a piece of property, you're not gonna use it for residential, don't leave it zoned that way.
Right.
I mean, even with the conditional use permit, you've essentially rezoned it.
Right.
So you might as well just zone it and it be what it is. Of course, under the new ordinance that Ms. Allen had referred to, you know, right now we don't have any real office type zones or anything like that. Where under the new ordinance, we will have some zones like that, which will allow medical offices or even just general offices without allowing some of the more heavier commercial retail type uses. So that might be more appropriate for transition in areas like this.
Well, and that certainly, you know, that would open them up to not feeling, you know, maybe they chose to live out there for a reason to kind of get away from some of those businesses. And to Mr. Black's point, when, you know, when you open up anything to commercial now and then anybody can start coming in, it changes, you know, the reason they could have purchased a house there. It changes a lot of things. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is
and you know,
forward thinking.
and I think the folks, if the people that's applied for this, if they actually live there,
You'd feel
and maybe
differently.
seek a conditional use permit, you know, and been there for a while, because that's kind of a rural commissioner. That's Commissioner Jernigan. He can speak about this. It's you know, if you live there and you know how this person has kept his place, and not to say these folks they keep I'm sure I know that where they live, they keep their place great and all, and I'm sure they would do this the same way if they actually live there. But going back to some of the reasons why we are for conditional use permits or against them, I guess, is we listen to the people right around wherever. It's something, I mean, what Tiffany, I mean, you've been, I guess, had to face these issues so far on different things. And so, you know, like I said, I just politely asked the county commissioners, if, you know, I hope these folks finds a place somewhere that everything can meet what I just spoke about. So I appreciate y'all listening to me.
So this will come before the full commission also?
Yes, sir, next week.
Anyone else got anything they want to say?
How close did you say the next commercial property was from this?
Actually, zoned property.
Zoned property.
I think the report calls it in. It's about half mile to the southwest at the intersection of Las Casas Pike and Compton Road.
I was trying to see if I could see it on here.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to see it.
That's
It would
what I was
be,
wondering.
it'd be off down this way somewhere. Yeah, the map doesn't go that far around.
No question.
I make a wish we approve the report as presented.
Somewhere, a second, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Yeah, that, pass out these copies. These are not on your iPod, these are hard copies we got from the state. In May of 2010, if you remember, we had quite a bit of flooding in the county, and we have gone forward with a grant request. Well, there's been several submitted, but this one was approved by FEMA to handle 3 homes. The funding page on the front copy, you need to probably turn the page right to page 12. The total grant for this is $537,000. And we're a little bit fortunate, in the other states where they're doing this, the community is putting out 25% and the feds are 75%. In our situation, the feds put out 75, the state has agreed to pay 12.5, and then we come up with 12.5. Our portion is $67,234.50. This was submitted over a year ago. I think that you guys were familiar with it, and we got it back, and So what we're bringing forward now is the grant itself, and we will need to come up with $67,000. It would probably be in next year's budget because of the fact that we've got to do appraisals. There's a requirement after we get an agreement with the homeowners to accept the appraisal. We have to go into these homes and test for lead-based paint and asbestos, which we didn't have to do on. This is similar to a grant that we got, you remember, a few years back at Twin Oaks Drive in Greenwood, where we purchased approximately 18 homes, tore them down. We're purchasing these homes, they'll be torn down, the property will belong to the county, but you won't be able to build a structure on it.
How does it become the county's responsibility to acquire these properties? I mean, is it just something you feel like is, I guess, in our best interest? I'm trying to figure out, how did the houses get built if it was never a good idea for them to be there?
In each, two of the houses are not located in the floodplain, and the flooding is caused by localized flooding. The third house is in the floodplain. When it was built, it was before we gave out permits, and so it was built without a permit. And it's below, the house is like 7 or 8 feet below the floodplain level. And as a result, FEMA is telling us we have to do something about that house. And again, the other two is because they have shown, by the receipts and history, they've shown a pattern of flooding due to different storm sizes and stuff. The grant comes down from FEMA through TEMA. Each year there's X amount of money, and you compete with other entities within the state, other cities, to get money to buy these houses. Nashville, in May of 2000, they went through the flooding, and so they're purchasing up several hundred of these homes. These are the 3 that came forward, and this was through the EMA office, through Roger's office. They came in with the paperwork and stuff. They submitted to FEMA, to TEMA, which goes to FEMA, in the process, and then they were actually awarded the grant to take care of these homes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if there's any way to avoid being put in this situation again in the future. But I mean, when you're dealing with houses that are pre-permits, there's really not. I mean,
well, we're reviewing with much more detail and thoroughness all of these plans, these subdivision developments. I mean, and we're looking at the drainage. So years ago, that really just wasn't done properly and appropriately, and we found ourselves now. We hope this is the last 3 out there, but at least we don't know of any others that are going to be like this. Heretofore, I mean, I don't know exactly, before I was even there, I know there was, he said 18, but there's been a number of these houses that were placed in just this predicament because of, somehow it was sort of our negligence, even though we didn't even, may have a person even reviewing those plans, it's still somewhat our responsibility to assure that this doesn't happen in a platted subdivision.
How much is the property worth?
We've not finished the appraisals on each one of these properties. If you look at the tax records, one of them runs about 140, one of them's over 200,000. There's the other one's probably, I don't know, 160, 170. But we go in and do the appraisal, and we hire an outside appraiser, somebody's independent. And they use the standards that they're supposed to go on, submit the appraisal to us. We submit that to the homeowner for them to accept or not to accept. Now, there is a chance that the homeowner may decide, that's not enough money for my house, and so I'm not going to accept it. Well, what we do at that case is we'll walk away from the house. And so, we tried our best. This is the best we can do to help you. And so, 2 of them were unable to get flood insurance, or at least that's what they say. The third one, which is in the floodplain, that one's a pretty unique situation there. So,
so is the scope of the grants intended to acquire the property and dispose of it? It needs to cover all of those expenses related to.
That's correct, and we're going to. Part of our $67,000 will be in kind. When we're going to use a public works crew to tear down the homes and take the material to the landfill. Then the county, main thing was they'll probably bush hog the property about twice a year is what we're doing with the others.
So when the estimate comes in of what the houses are worth, you'll have to factor in what it's gonna cost to dispose of the property, and then figure out if it's, if
Well,
we're
that
gonna
part,
be.
that part's in here already separate. They've got
Okay.
a line item for the houses, or actually
For
buying the
demo
houses.
and all that.
And then there's a separate line item for doing the lead paste, you know, for the appraisals
Testing.
and
Mhm.
doing the lead paste paint and the asbestos. And there's a separate one for disposal, destruction and disposal of the property.
But this is but all of that's rolled into the total?
All that's rolled into the totals.
Okay.
So basically, we're getting $537,000 worth of work, and our portion is $67,000, of which we can write off, not write off, but do in kind 25% of that
Mhm.
$67,000.
Okay.
How much property is it to maintain each year? Like how many acres is it?
See, I think about 5 acres.
We need a public works bush hog once we get them cleaned off.
But we own the land forever and just have to maintain it?
Right. There's, we've talked to them about potentially maybe putting a park or something. You can't put a structure, if you put like a park bench, you'd have to make sure it's
Mhm.
secured so that it doesn't, if it floods, it doesn't float down,
Mhm.
hit your neighbor. There's a few minor things you can do with it, but the grant indicates, you know, it's very specific. You're not putting a structure on that anymore because of the flooding. You know, we purchased one similar to this down off of Midland Fosterville, and we were approached about the fire people doing a training facility
Mhm.
there, but we're unable to get permission to do that. We can't.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that the feds are making us do this?
No, this is voluntary. This is our way to try to help these people. This is the only way we can have to help these people. And so we put together the paperwork, submitted it for the grant for this purpose.
If that, I don't know about that one particular house, if that's the one that we have, they told us to do something about it, we don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, there's the one I told you was below the flood level.
If it's below
We have to-
floodplain.
We have to
we're-
do something about that.
In other words, if we don't do something about that one, the whole county will not be able to have flood insurance on any. They'll pull our, you might say our permission to grant flood insurance, that they won't give it to anybody in the county unless we get that one in compliance for sure.
They really flooded right there. I mean, all of them need, I mean,
Those two.
I'm just glad we.
And I have taken repeated phone calls, and, I mean, it's been a history of major difficulty for those homeowners.
Well, I understand that, you know, they're in a bind, but I just don't know that it's the county's responsibility to help homeowners in that
Well,
situation.
I mean, at some point, they probably could find that we should have done something to prevent that. And now we've even tried to remedy this situation by doing substantial remedial work on drainage ditches, et cetera, because we think that's part of our responsibility. We can't make it happen. We can't correct that one on Deerfield. Everything we've done has not been able to remedy the fact that water is gonna stand in that yard and get into that, underneath that house.
How long has the house been there?
Several, you mean a number of years.
So the lady lives in that particular house, been there 18 years, and I don't think she bought it new for our order.
It's probably 25, 30 years. I know it's been there.
And there's a Latin word in the law called caveat emptor, buyer beware. I mean, at some point, it's the homeowner's responsibility to look at the property and scope it out and find out if it's in the floodplain. And I just don't know if the county needs to assume this responsibility forever. It's more work. We're already understaffed and more things to do than we can handle, it sounds like.
You gotta look back when he's done, there were no regulations. So you modernized up to the day. I think county's got some responsibility when it comes down to something like this right here. As you move forward, you got departments we're doing drainage, is that water help? That's as much a responsibility as this is right here.
It's an opportunity for us to complete a ongoing problem, and somebody else pay for 87.5% of it.
And there's concern they could always come back and hold us liable for something that happened when none of us were even considering the commission, I would assume.
So Dale, did you say the property can never be sold? Or like, I'm wondering if like an adjacent property owner doesn't want to build on it, but they just might want to expand their land area.
I think it's written into the grant that we can't sell it.
We can't sell it, okay.
Now, if they wanted to grow hay on it, of course it's in the middle of subdivision, but
Mhm.
you're not gonna do that to a farmer, or maybe lease it for cattle. I'm just thinking of something that, we'd actually have to check into that for it.
I'm just curious.
Any more questions or discussions on? Somebody make a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
We'd stop and
Building codes,
Huh?
David's up.
David, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
Hello.
Good evening.
got your report on your iPad or hard copy. Everything except our property maintenance inspection you should have on your iPad. Our building code department report for April, we issued 171 building permits. Fees taken in was $43,273 for building permits, $4,825 for plumbing permits. Gas permits was $435, for a total of $48,533. Back of the report shows our monthly, monthly totals and year totals. Single-family dwellings, we've issued a total of 145 for the first 4 months of this year. Last year was 111, so we're up 34 houses this year. Our total permits issued, 648 so far this year, 517 last year, so we're up 131 total permits. Our next report is our property maintenance inspections. We performed 268 inspections for property maintenance. You can see the property maintenance number up there, 119, mostly grass yard complaints, abandoned properties. The Board of Zoning Appeals and Conditional Uses was 20 inspections, picked up signs was 72, 92 inspections in that category. New cases was 41, closed cases was 56. We're showing liens up here at 22. The number on those were 11 liens placed on property in April and 11 closed paid liens in April. Our next report would be the development tax collections. Building Codes Department took in $317,250. Planning Department took in $41,250 for a total of $358,500. A cumulative total, $1,370,250. Our breakdown of where those fees were collected for April was Murfreesboro City with the highest at $161,250. Smyrna, Smyrna came in at $159. We had 72 apartment units in Murfreesboro that paid and 100 in Smyrna that paid for April. So that brought our total to $358,500. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
David, where are those apartments going in Smyrna? Do you know?
Ashton Circle, Ashton. Ashton Circle.
Do you know what road that's off of?
No, I don't.
I saw a lot of dirt moving off Old Nashville Highway, and I just
Oh,
wondered.
it is,
Okay.
that's right. It is off Old Nashville Highway.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
We have the dead
Dead,
animal removal.
dead animal removal. You had Mr. Ernest.
Okay, again, this year, this is a renewal of a contract we've had for a couple of years now, and it's coordinated by the South Central Tennessee Development District, in that this agreement, they coordinate the removal of all the dead animals on our county roads. And it's the same amount this year as it was last year, $33,007.52. So we need permission to, again, execute this agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
They've
Is
asked
that a
us-
copy of it?
Number 9 here, they've asked us to reschedule July meeting. Possible Wednesday, June the 20th.
Mhm. That is the only date available.
On the date she said available.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Need a motion then.
Make a motion to move the July meeting to June 20th.